And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's good to be back with you. Today we're talking about PCC markers, and the one that we're focusing on today is the number 6. All right. So my name is Peter J. Redding. I am a master coach. I am a master coach trainer. I've been doing this for 25 years, since 1996. And this is my way of giving back. This is my way of paying it forward. The profession of coaching has blossomed, has matured, we've learned a tremendous amount over the last 25 years in terms of why coaching is so incredibly important and powerful. And what makes it as powerful as it is are these PCC markers that have been studied and honed and updated by the International Coaching Federation, in particular since probably about 2013, 2014, when the first markers came out. They were updated just recently in 2019 and 2020 with the new ICF competency model. And so this is for those of you that are professional coaches, that as a great reminder in terms of, here are the skill set, here are the competencies that I do as a professional coach. For those of you that are interested in becoming a professional coach, it's also for you to determine, am I doing this? To what degree am I doing this? And so if you missed some of the earlier sessions that I've done, I invite you to go back and view those. Today, we're going to talk about listens actively. And the 7 that you see there are 7 specific PCC markers or PCC behaviors that an assessor would be listening for in a coaching session that they are reviewing and assessing to see, is this coach and is this coaching at the PCC level of coaching? So let's get right to it. Listens actively, definition, focuses on what the client is and is not saying to further understand, or to fully understand what is being communicated in the context of the client's systems and to support client self-expression. So lots of really good vocabulary here. Focuses on the client in terms of what they're saying. So some things they're saying outright. Other things that they may be not saying about the particular topic that they're wanting to get into. And so I'm listening on both sides of the line here of, what's not being shared about blank? What's being communicated within the context of the client's systems. The client's system is their ecosystem, their culture, their company, their family unit, their country, all the different aspects that they are plugged into and part of, or being influenced by, or working within, or living within, is their systems that is being referred to here. So my view as a professional coach is, yes, specifically on this particular client and specifically on this particular aspect of their life that they've chosen for themselves to talk about today, explore today, accomplish today. And the broader picture that I'm holding for my client in this session is all the different parts of the system that they're operating within. What's their belief system? What's their working environment? What's their family obligations that they are part of and have directly or indirectly said, yes, I am responsible for being the breadwinner, the person that brings in the money to support my extended family, maybe my elder parents, me and my spouse or my significant other, my children, perhaps, if they're still in the household, etc. So ecosystem or client systems is all of that, and hold that, again, within the context of what they're wanting to accomplish today. And support the client's self-expression. So this, again, goes to the core of coaching that is being integrated into the fabric of society, of rather than being told what to do for their entire lifetime, what does a client want? What serves the client? What's best for the client's personal development? What's important to their professional development? And so on. So it's about having the client do the exploration for their expression. What are the options that they come up with? What are the commitments that they make to and for themselves? What kind of resources and support systems, and have them do the work. If you've listened to any of my previous sessions or been trained by me, you know that that's one of my favorite expressions. Make the client do the work. And a lot of clients are not used to doing their inner work. They're not accustomed to that. It's hard work. So they would rather be told what to do. As a professional coach, I do not give advice. I do not tell them what to do or they should do or how to do it, but rather hold a space for them to do it and figure it out for themselves. So listens actively, major part of what we do as a professional coach. All right, so let's get into the actual PCC markers. If you have any questions as we go through this, by the way, please type them into the chat box. This is going to be a kind of a power-packed hour that we're going to be doing today because there's a lot of material to go through, but I will try to get to those questions. And hopefully we'll be able to do that in the hour that we were here live. 6.1, first marker within the listens actively. Coaches' questions and observations are customized by using what the coach has learned about who the client is or the client situation. So I am always listening. I've learned about the client from my previous coaching sessions. I've learned things about the client from this coaching session, the language that they're using. I'm listening for that. And so I want to incorporate that into my questioning. Rather than just saying, so what do you want to do here? Okay, very generic. It's actually a good question because it is open-ended, right? So you get credit for that, but it's not customized. What do you want to do here? What would it sound like to be customized is, so what do you want to do with this aspect of your career move? That would be customized because they're talking about their career move. And I'm customizing it to know, basically saying, I heard you say, okay, that's what it means in terms of customizing it in terms of what I've learned. I think I just heard you say that there's 2 aspects or 3 aspects to your decision in terms of career. So out of those 2 or 3 aspects, which of those would you like to focus on today? Okay, that would be customizing a question based on, again, being responsive to what they just said and using the words that they've used ahead of time, as opposed to just a generic. Again, what it would not sound like is, so what do you want to do with this? That's a good question. It's not a bad question. Like I say, you'll get credit for that someplace else in the markers in terms of asking open-ended, 1 question at a time, allowing a client to answer, right? But it's not a customized question, so you don't get credit for this. You'll also see the word double. We talked about this a lot in last week's session, live session. Double means that 6.1, when the assessor marks you and saying, yes, this particular coach understands how to customize their questions or observations, and you get credit for performing the behavior of 6.1 shows up in your coaching. You automatically get credit for one of the 11 markers that we're looking for, the assessor's looking for in competency number 2. Maintains a coaching mindset. Maintains a coaching mindset. So this is one indicator out of 11 that the assessor will say, yep, this person is listening is supporting the client to self-express, is holding a space for the client to do the work, etc. Customizing their questions and observations, so you get double credit. That's what the double refers to. And there's so many of those, and I don't frankly even know, because the ICF hasn't given us a rubric yet. But there's, out of those 11, I would shoot for 80–90% personally. Okay, and that's from Peter Redding, not from the ICF. But I would shoot for, personally 90% of those 11, so maybe 9 out of the 11, to get credit for being at a PCC level marker, a PCC level competency coach, by getting 9 out of the 11 that we're looking for under competency number 2. So let's come back to number 6. Observations, the same thing. Observations is not advice giving. Observations is, let me see how I could customize this in the, yeah, my observation is that every time that you have an idea of what you might want to do next, right? Next action steps or next inquiries that you want to contemplate between now and next session. But the 4 or 5 times that you brought that up or during the course of our session today, I'm noticing that there's, at the end of that, you're saying, yeah, but there might be a better way. And I think I've heard you repeat that. There might be a better way, again, 5 or 6 times when you've started talking about possible action steps on your part. So what's going on with that for you? I'm making an observation. I'm making it as a statement. This is what I have observed, okay? And I'm claiming that, owning that. I'm also backing away from it and saying I may be wrong here, and I may be completely off base. And if I am, that's fine. And then I'm asking a question. Okay, what's going on, if anything, in this situation? When you get to that, all right. So that's customizing it based on what I've learned and what I've heard the client say, and feeding it back to the client for their value, not for mine, but for their value, and supporting them to move forward and go, oh, yeah, I have hesitancy in taking definitive actions. Wow. And so how do you want to handle taking definitive actions or not? Again, asking them, do they want to do something with this or not? Okay, all customizing it. Let's move forward. Oh, how does this support the client? Yeah, obviously it supports the client to say, hey, I am listening 100% to you, number 1. And number 2, when they hear their own words back, they go, wow, yeah, well, you're right. I have said that. But that, I'm not sure that really serves me any longer. Wow, that's a great insight. Okay, so that's how it supports the client, rather than just be generic questions. The more specific I can be, according to and in alignment with their agenda, the more that they can go, they can explore deeper or broader, or know that they're satiated. They're satisfied with what they've done so far, and that's good. Yeah. All right. 6.2, coach inquires about or explores the words the client uses. This one's pretty straightforward, and it's amazing how many coaches don't do this. And I encourage you to do this. What would this sound like is, you just used the words, I want to be a spectacular leader. Okay, now I've been around leaders for all my life. I know what leaders are. I know what they do. I know their mindsets. I know, kind of who is and who is not a spectacular leader or great leader, whatever words that they may have just used. But let's say that they said spectacular leader. I want to be a spectacular leader. Then I might ask a question. What this would sound like is, so what's spectacular leader mean to you? I use those exact words. I don't say awesome leader. I don't use fabulous leader. not if that's not the words that they used, but spectacular leader. I want to be a spectacular leader. Wow, that's fantastic. So what does a spectacular leader mean to you? Open-ended what? Don't guess and ask them a yes or no question, but have them articulate that. It allows them to, again, go deeper. What do I mean by that? I've been using that for the last 5 years, but let's see. Okay, so what does that really mean? Possible response from them. It means I want to be present. I want to be compassionate. I want to listen to ideas before jumping in and telling people what to do. I mean, again, it could go in any direction. It's the beauty of an open-ended question, or what question. And it is, in most cases, and there may be words that you just plain never heard before, or an acronym that they are using that you're not familiar with. So it can also apply to that. There was a session recently where someone used the acronym SWOT, SWOT, right? So that's an acronym for how to analyze the situation and figure out what to do with it, okay? But if you're not familiar with that, then you would ask, so what does that mean, right? But 90% of the cases, 95% of the cases of myself in terms of my coaching, as well as people that I've listened to, and there's been thousands of sessions I've listened to, they're common words, and everybody would be able to give a definition of that particular word. That's not the point. The point is to support the client to go deeper into that particular word. And I'm being a support. I am being a partner for the client to explore what all is involved with blank. Even though I could tell you the 10 things that I know that are involved with blank, who cares? It's not me. It's not my awareness that I'm trying to elevate. It's my clients. What it would not sound like is when you tell them what it means. Okay, so I hear that you want to do an executive summary, or I want you to do the first part of a business plan. So that would be the executive summary. So let's start with that. Okay, now coach has just taken over. I've interpreted what I think they should do next. Not my job. That's what it does not sound like, is when the coach interprets what they've said and then sets a direction based on that. So I've just robbed the opportunity. I robbed the opportunity for my client to do an exploration of what's important to them. Okay, but it does not sound like it. The significance of this for the client, how does it support the client, is again, for them to get really clear. This is raising the level of awareness in my client. That's and allowing them and supporting them to move forward, and allowing them to do that work. So if there's like 3 major principles, there they are right there, right? Have them get clear, raise a level of awareness in terms of what they want to do, how they want to do it, when they want to do it, why they want to do it, the significance of it, figure out what it is that they want to do, make self-commitments, self-generated ideas, have them do the work. It is such a privilege to be a professional coach and not be an expert, not be a trainer, not be a mentor. Now, there's places for all of those things, but if you are interested in developing them as a human being, coach them. Coach them. Ask questions, have them figure things out for themselves. It's within them. And you're saying to them, you are an incredibly resourceful human being. I so honor that in you. So what is it that you want to do? What is it who do you want to be? Yeah, allow that to happen. Okay, let's move on. 6.3. Coach inquires about or explores the client's emotions. This is not just about doing, action item, action item, action item. For a lot of coaches for the first 20 years, it was a lot of that. In fact, mostly that, because the coach themselves were not comfortable with this EQ stuff, this emotional quotient stuff. Yeah, much rather things I'd rather, talk about that I can measure. that I can plot on a graph. I can track on getting stuff done, doing stuff, head stuff. If I can analyze it, then that's a good topic, and I'm comfortable with that. Like, I'm comfortable in supporting you, coachee, right, my client. Much to the credit of ICF, and something that we've done at Coach for Life for all the last 25 years, has had a heavy emphasis on the doing and the being of the client's life. Emotions fall into the being part. And yes, all human beings are emotional. Now, there's been a lot of training of, don't show your emotions while you're in certain places because it's not appropriate. Okay, I get the enculturation that this can have around the world. And it's not just America, it's not just India, it's not just Europe, it's not just one place. It's, every place that I've ever been working, which is mostly around the world. People get emotional, they get joyous, they get excited, they get happy, they get depressed, they get challenged, they're grieving. All of it is part of being a human being. So the coach inquires about or explores. Now, and there's a difference here between inquires and explores. Inquires is asking a question. Explores is inviting the client to go deeper. So there may be a series of questions. So what's underneath that is a great way to say it. What's happening when you are in the state of blank? Okay, now we are not going, let me get into what it sounds like and what it doesn't sound like. All right, so what it sounds like is a couple of them just shared. So I'm noticing that you're getting a bit, this is a tender moment for you. What's going on for you? And it could be a tender moment of jubilation or breakthrough, or, oh my God, I don't want to be who I've been being through fear or trepidation or domination or whatever has been going on. I want to claim who I really am. And I want to do it with my family, or I want to do it with my employer, or I want to do it with my significant other. Wow. And so this would be, and so what would that look like? Who do you need to be or want to be to honor this part of you? That's what it might sound like in terms of exploring this emotion. What it does not sound like is, oh no, okay, so I'm very uncomfortable. Okay, and the coach would maybe not even be aware of this if they haven't done their own inner work. But ultimately what's happening inside for the coach might be, whew, boy, this is activating me because I've got issues with, anger issues, or I've got, with people who get melancholy, or I get with too much joy. I've even heard that on the other side of the scale, like, don't be so darn, excited and over the top. It's over the top. Let's kind of ratchet this baby down. All right. It can happen all along whatever, again, the coach may not have come to terms with in their own life and their own emotions. That's what it does not sound like. And as a result of that, the coach will say, okay, so what else do you want to talk about? What do you want to do about this? the classic, let's get out of these emotions. What do you want to do with this? Okay, and it may not at all have anything to do with doing. It may have everything to do with being. How do you want to be with this is a much better question. And allow the client to go through their process. That is also part of professional coaching and working with the who of the client, who they are as a human being, which, oh, by the way, this is part of it, emotions, as well as their doingness of what they want to accomplish. I want to get these actions in place. I want to get this project underway. I want to move forward in my blank. It's a both and. It's a both and. The benefit of this to the client, I'm treating him as a human being, not as a human doing. I'm treating them as a person behind the role that they're currently in. And 70% of the time they're talking about what they need to do. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But it's also addressing there's a man or a woman or a person behind this activity, this role that they're in, the action, the goal that they're going after. And it's a both and. And it's a huge support. Because, and this is not therapy, by the way. This is not going back, okay, so when's the first time that you had issues with male-dominated person in your household? This is not about going back to can you remember the first time when you felt this way? We coach training, regardless of who it is, whether it's Coach for Life, which is my organization, or somebody else's, is not training you to be a therapist. We have an ethical obligation to refer out to a trained, licensed therapist that can handle those issues of victim mentality that is still stuck within the client. So here's my statement. Healthy clients have emotions. I'm going to say that again. Healthy clients have emotions. And so that's what we're talking about here, is just explore that to the point where it's focusing on what's happening right now and how do we want to have that client process that in the moment and move forward. Or what's the decisions that they are willing and able to make now based on that new awareness. It is not going back and trying to fix or heal or process those emotions from whenever they happened. And it could have been in childhood, they could have been in adulthood. Yeah, so don't start getting into when did it first start happening. Clearly the realm of the therapist. And for those of you that are trained therapists, I apologize for oversimplifying this. I so respect the work that you do. And there's been occasion where I've referred out to a coaching client that I felt was stuck to a therapist, and it was spectacular all the way around. Yeah. Okay, let's keep going. 6.4, coach explores the client's energy shifts, nonverbal cues, or other behaviors. Now, I have to observe this before I can explore it, before I can ask about it. So I'm listening and observing. So a lot of coaches love face-to-face so they can see the cues, the physical cues that indicate an energy shift. Energy shift, when I'm referring to that, is, let me see if I can demonstrate it as the client is really excited about their life. They're starting a family and they're just really jubilant. They've been planning this now for the last 3 years with their spouse. And so the elevation of the speech is typically a faster pace and higher vibration. And then while they're still talking about this, they start getting into an aspect of it yeah, and then I have well, there's a huge financial thing that's happening here, and we're currently sort of underemployed. We're employed, but we're underemployed as far as earning potential right now. And right, you got it. If this was on a vibrational scale, the vibration is like at this level, and then it goes whoop, and now they're down here, and their voice pattern changes, and their tonality changes, and they're kind of hesitating and sharing what they're sharing. And that's what we're referring to as an energy shift. And it could be the other way around too, by the way. It could be, well, everybody wants me to do X, Y, and Z. But Peter, I just was introduced to coaching. I use coaching, the self-serving, but that's all right. I've been going along my professional life, and I've been an A, B, or C kind of a person working for this kind of company and this kind of work. And then I got introduced to coaching, and now, wow, this is exciting stuff. And I think I was born to do this. I've actually heard those words from some of my students. That's also an energy shift. So the shift can be down, or it can be kind of dragging along. It's like da, 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 da. An anchor on my ankles that I'm dragging along the ground, trying to get ahead, to whoo, now I'm flying. There is something, I'm going to say 100% on this one. There's very few 100% in my life, but this is 100% when that is happening, and I can catch that, and I'm aware of that, and I can explore what's going on for the client's energy shift, and support, again, say it out loud. Here's what I've noticed. And again, I still kind of retract from this. May or may not be right for, correct for you, but what did you notice? What's happening here for you? Or, what's underneath this for you? Have them explore it and offer that space for them to do that safe, sacred space that I always talk about, that they can, maybe they've never done that in their last 42 years of life because they haven't been safe enough to do that. Yeah, I have a major fear. This is so positive, it's overwhelming for me. Again, it could be anywhere along the continuum of energy and excitement or fear, trepidation. There's always something major, 100%, almost guaranteed. And the client may not wish to go into it. It may be too overwhelming for them. And that's okay too. The coach will get credit for opening up the door for exploration from the assessor. Okay, the assessor is going to go, okay, great. This coach has been obviously trained well. This coach is understanding this particular competency of exploring a client's energy shift, and they are inviting the client to explore that. Check. Well done. Yay, coach. And it is frankly irrelevant that if the client is ready to go into that exploration or not, from an ICF assessing the coach, because they're assessing the coach, they're not assessing the client. So the client may, again, for all of the coaches that are out here listening to this, accept what the client's desire is. It's their choice to talk about or not talk about, go deep, not go deep during a coaching session. It's client-centric. It's not coaching, forcing-centric. Okay, no, I really want you to get this. That's, okay, let's go to the next one. That's what it does not sound like. It does not sound like beating them over the head and saying, no, I think this would really serve you and your agenda and what you want to accomplish today to really look at this. So I'm going to say it again. I really heard this energy shift, blah, blah, blah. That's not my prerogative to do. Once I've introduced it, then I need to be, again, let your Velcro fingers off of it and allow the client to take it however they want to take it. Huh. That's really interesting, Peter, that you recognize that. But no, I don't really get that, that's significant for me. Okay. It's not time for them because it may be too raw. It may be too tender. It may be too overwhelming. And I can guarantee you that a seed has been planted in their mind, and they will think about it. They will reflect on it. And maybe they just need the next couple of weeks or the next 6 months to do that. I don't know. Not for me to say. But it is my prerogative to notice that and share that and inquire about that. Okay. So good. Again, any questions that are coming up, please type those into the chat box, and if we have time at the end, we'll get to those. And if not, then I'll answer them afterwards. Yeah. Again, this is a huge thing, this energy shift. It doesn't happen, by the way, in every single coaching session. Doesn't have to. If there's not a reason to bring it up, then don't bring it up just for the sake of 6.4. The assessor will give you credit for using this appropriately. And if appropriately means that it didn't happen and there wasn't an opportunity to bring it up, then you will get credit for that, right? So don't just make it up, and because you also have to be responsive to what the client's going through. And if they are pretty even around, there's no particularly, energy shift that's happened, then don't make one up. But if it does happen, it is a tremendous support to the client, because they are typically mostly 90%, 95% unaware of that energy shift, because they're just talking. They're just, because it's an open space for them to talk and to share fully, and they have made, as obvious it is to me as a professional coach, it's not as obvious to my client, because they're living inside it. It's kind of like asking a fish, how do you like the water today? It's like, what are you talking about? Right? It's part of their ecosystem. But when I can highlight it or underline it and bring it to their attention, there is almost always, always, always a significant insightfulness that the client will come to. Yeah. Okay, 6.5 is a double. Right? This is one of those things that if you get credit for 6.5, you also get credit for one of those 11. This is one of the 11 up in competency number 2, having a coaching mindset. So 6.5 reads, coach inquires about or explores how the client currently perceives themselves or the world that they live in. And their world that they live in, again, can be their immediate family, can be the culture that they live within. The culture meaning I'm an American, or I'm an Indian, or I'm a Frenchman, or an Italian, or so on and so forth, right? It could be that country's culture. It could be the culture of age range. What stage of life are you in right now? All right, so I'm an elder, so that would be part of my world. And how do I perceive my world? How do I perceive my world as a elder, as someone that in some people's eyes, you should be retired like all the rest of your college graduates, right? College roommates. So this is coach inquires about, explores how the client currently perceives themselves, again, as a human being. And it could be because of color, race, gender, sexual identity, country they live in, the role that they're in right now, the stage of life that they're in. I am raising a family now. That's one stage of life. I am now going through midlife crisis. That's another stage of life, and so on. And it says, or their world. So what's their worldview for themselves? Well, a lot of clients right now are talking about COVID. What in the world that they're living in is restricted travel. is restricted gatherings. So how did they perceive that? And again, how I'm going to say this, or what this might sound like, is what's going on for you as it relates to your work and working from home during this pandemic. Okay, that's what it might sound like. What it does not sound like is, well, you know, everybody knows that you can't travel right now and everybody is working from home. So is that getting in your way of progressing your career? Okay. I've defined their world. I've defined the perception that they should be just like everybody else that I hear about on CNN. And I've asked a closed-end question, yes or no. It's not what it sounds like. So I wouldn't get, if the assessor was listening to that part of my coaching session, the assessor's going, well, Peter obviously doesn't know how to inquire or explore the clients, how they perceive themselves, because he's telling them that they should be perceiving themselves just like everybody else. And worse, he's asked a closed-end question at the end of it. So, no 6.5 for Peter. Okay. How do you currently perceive themselves? Okay, so how do you see yourself within the context of what's currently going on in the world? That might be a great way to say or sound like how they perceive themselves. Huh. Assessor goes, oh, Peter's gotten better here. He must have gone through some training. or listened to this magnificent, awesome presentation on listens actively. Yeah. Again, or you don't have to do both. I think it's a good idea to do both myself. But, you know, can you tell me a little bit more about, okay, so that's starting to be a yes or no question. Did you just hear that? Could you, it's going to be a yes or no question. So I'm going to stop myself as a coach and as a trainer right now and say, so how do you perceive yourself given the world that you're living in right now? It's a great question about their world. And they can take that to their family unit. They can take that to their living environment. They can take it to, you know, the team meetings now that they haven't been able to get together at their headquarters for the last, you know, in some cases 12, 15 months. And have them describe how they perceive their world, their working world, their family world, their career world. For a lot of kids that are going to university or thought they were going to university at some campus far away, a lot of them are still doing their classes from their home. So for their world, you know, what's campus life like? You know, a virtual campus life or a virtual, you know, lecture hall life. It's been very different than what they had perceived earlier. Again, great questions and how that might sound. Yeah, so let's move on. How does it support them? Has them go into it deeper. Again, inquires about or explores. Okay, so it could be just one question about that particular area of life for them or their particular interaction with that for themselves. Or it could be a deeper exploration for them to kind of unravel. That's why I'm so frustrated. I was really excited about going off to campus in Holland. And now I've been stuck in my home in Mumbai. And, you know, I'm still stuck with my parents. I'm still stuck with my younger siblings that bug me. Again, allowing them to figure out what's going on for them and then unraveling it and then perhaps moving forward with it in some other way. But that's 6.5 is a great way to, again, be client-centric what's going on for them without me helping them to define what's going on or how they should be feeling. You should be grateful you have a place to do it from. You should be grateful you have internet connection. You should be grateful to have, you know, people around you that support you and feed you, you know, day in and day out. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. But that's not helpful. Naomi's got a question. Is it always necessary to ask about their world? I feel like at time I might just interject this question. Yeah, this is when it's appropriate. And so that's the importance of the or in some of these competencies and markers. Coach explores how the client currently perceives themselves or their world. So the assessor that's listening to this is going to kind of be listening through the filter of when is it appropriate and responsive to what the client's talking about for the coach to ask about one or the other. Okay, and it could be and, obviously you get, you know, credit for that. But you don't need to ask both in order to get credit for this. And again, it needs to be within the context of to support the client's agenda and to support them to move forward in the fashion that they're choosing to move forward in. This is not just, okay, wait a minute. I know you've been talking about all of this other stuff, but I have to come back to 6.5 to ask this about, you know, how do you perceive yourself? That may be completely out of context of what the client's thought process and exploration has been. Then it's considered a counter evidence. In other words, it's a opposite of what the assessor's looking for the client to be able to do and be able to be responsive to. And so if the client is, or the coach is unresponsive to the client, then it's like minus, you know, -1 for this particular aspect. Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Naomi. 6.6. Coach allows a client to complete speaking without interrupting unless there's a stated coaching purpose to do that. I love this one. I love this one. For a couple of reasons. One is when I was growing up, I was told, do not interrupt the adults that are speaking at the table. I mean, I heard that, I don't know, 10,000 times by the time I was 12 years old. Do not interrupt. It's not polite to interrupt. I've also found out that it's the parent training that the Indian parents have gotten, you know, growing up in life. They've said the same thing to their children growing up. And guess what? The European parents, they get the same training. I don't know. There must have been one course that all parents have to go through that says to their children, don't interrupt. So I come in as a human being, as a would-be professional coach with the attitude of, oh, it's not polite to interrupt. I'm going to tell you that it is polite. It is a requirement to interrupt when there's a stated coaching reason. So here's a couple of stated coaching reasons. This is what it might sound like. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that word. Did you say did or did not? Did not. Okay, got it. Keep going. Okay, so I interrupted them because I didn't hear the word. I didn't hear the nuance between did and didn't, or can and can't. Okay, so I need to interrupt so I can actually understand, you know, what side of this issue that they're on right now, right? If they're going on and on and on and on aimlessly, and I say aimlessly where I'm starting to hear the same thing repeated the second time or maybe the third time in a kind of a, call it a do loop, you know, but it's like a merry-go-round. They could just keep going around in their head because that's the way you know, the synapses work up there. Da 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 da, and then yeah, and then I go da da da. Okay, so all right, stop. I think I've heard you say now a couple of times that blah 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 blah, whatever that was. So could you please help tie that, or what's the relationship to that to what you want to accomplish in our session today? See, I just changed it. Could you is yes or no. Stop. Or how is that connected to open-ended? How is that connected to what you want to accomplish in our session today? All right. Another way of interrupting that is for a stated coaching reason. Now, if the client is real conscious and tends not to go on and on and on, and is very clear and concise, then you may not have to interrupt them at all for the next half an hour or an hour of the coaching session. Again, use this appropriately. Do not use this inappropriately. So it's responsive to the client. It is when I'm hearing the client clearly and understanding what they're saying. They're not repeating themselves. So I don't have to interrupt them to get credit for this if there's no reason to interrupt them. Here's what it does not sound like. A client is trying to speak and they pause momentarily and the coach interrupts with okay, so could you just share a little bit more about this, that, or the other? And the client is literally in mid-sentence. And they do that several times over the course of this because the coach is nervous and they're trying to, basically earn their keep, if you will. Or, I have to ask a question here because I haven't asked a question in a while. Don't interrupt just for the sake of interrupting, and don't interrupt unintentionally with, okay, so yeah, okay, great, yeah, all right, yeah, this is the beauty of doing word for word transcriptions. And if you do a transcription every 3 months or 6 months on your own, get a professional to do it. Don't do it yourself, because you will forget. You won't even hear the ahas, and you'll just keep typing what the client said and then what you said. And I can guarantee you that if you're not accustomed to this, and this is what we put into the certification program, you have to do a word for word transcription. And you can actually see, there's 50 places where the coach was interrupting the client in mid-sentence. That's what it does not sound like. The benefit of this is keeping the client on track. I am here in service to the client and the client's agenda and what the client wants to accomplish today. So if they're going off on a tangent that seems like a tangent, I may stop them and interrupt them and say, so could you just share a little bit of how this is related to what you want to accomplish today? Oh, well, actually it is. Okay. And they share that. Or no, this is just a tangent. Okay, so yeah, right. Let me get back to. Perfectly okay either way, but that's part of my job as a professional coach. Anne is asking a question here. Let me see if I have time for this. I don't. I'm going to get to that, but we got a couple more of these that I want to get to. Actually, one more. 6.7, coach succinctly reflects or summarizes what the client communicated to ensure the client's clarity and understanding. The key word here is succinctly. Reflects or summarizes what the client can talk. Again, if I go back to transcriptions, the client can talk for 8, 10, 15, 20 lines of text, which is a lot of time. That's like 4 or 5 minutes worth of talking. And I've heard some coaches, they take copious notes, they have an amazing memory, and so then they start reflecting back to the client. So I heard you say first minute's worth, and I hear and their summary is 4 minutes long for a 5-minute conversation that the client just shared, right? So that is not succinctly. Succinctly might sound like, wow, I hear lots of things. There's probably 7 or 8 different facets or aspects of this part of your life that's going on for you. What aspect would you like to focus on in our session today in the next 20 minutes? That's succinctly. It's right. It's recognizing, wow, there's a lot of stuff going on. I hear that. Now, if they've talked about 3 things, and you might just say, I heard 3 things, A, B, and C, but that's it. So which one would you like to start with? succinctly reflect and summarize, okay, in that fashion. Communicating to ensure the client's clarity and understanding. So this helps their clarity. It also helps coaches' clarity of what are we here for? What are we wanting to accomplish today? Okay. All right. Got a couple of minutes. Let me see if I can get to this question. Oh, let me go this first. The impact of this is that the client is responsible for doing most of the talking and reflecting. And most doesn't mean 51%. For me, it means, 85, 90%. And so there's frankly less time that I have as a coach, zip it, to allow the client to go deeper, to a client to explore, for the client to do the work. And I'm there to support the client to stay on track, their track, not my track. And so it's of huge support to the client. It also lets them know I am really there 100% present for them, 100%. I'm not thinking about multitasking. I'm not thinking about my emails. I'm not thinking about the things I need to do this afternoon. I'm not thinking about this, that, or the other. 100% there for you, buddy. Okay. All right. So let me go to Ann's question here. Why do you suppose they included the word coaching, quote unquote, stated coaching purpose? All right, so let me come back to, I think she's referring to the interruption. Coach allows the client to complete speaking without interrupting unless there is a stated coaching purpose. Yeah, the coaching purpose talks about the process of coaching, the structure of coaching. That's what I'm responsible as the coach for, the structure of coaching. So the coaching purpose has to be within the context of what do I know as a professional coach that supports my client to do that exploration, to do that ideation, to do that self-reflection, to do all of those kinds of things. And it is within the contextual structure of the frame that I'm holding for my client. That's why it's coaching purpose, as opposed to the coach's purpose, if you will, or the client's purpose. It's the coaching purpose to hold this frame, this structure for the client. Yeah, great question, Ann. Thank you for that. All right, then. Let's go to final. Next week's focus, I invite you back for looking at ICF PCC marker number 7. And number 7 is evokes awareness. It's kind of like this is the buildup. We've been building a foundation all the time that we've been talking about ethics, the competency model, the PCC markers, to get to this point of how can I, as their professional coach, support their evolution, development, cognition of awareness, because with awareness comes better consciousness to make better decisions about my life. I'm talking about the client's life now, for the client to make that better decision about their own life, or about how they're going to go about doing whatever it is that's up for them in their life. So you do not want to miss this. I invite you back here next Tuesday, 10 a.m. USA Eastern Time, for a live session with me, Peter J. Redding. With that, God bless. Namaste. Have a great week. Stay safe.